Are your hives ready for winter? It's starting to get cold out there, and I live in the mountains of North Carolina, and our winters here start really early. We've already had 2 weeks of really cool weather. It's been beautiful this week, and it's time to start breaking down our boxes. And it's really important that you get your boxes set up for your bees for winter. There's extra space that needs to be taken care of. So let's dig into this hive.
As we begin to dig into this hive, I just want to make the comment that I'm not the perfect beekeeper. This is just the way I do things. And, each individual hive has its own way of getting ready for winter. So I've opened the lid here. You can see that this hive has really grown throughout the year. It was a swarm. It continues to be the most easiest hive to get into. The bees are really calm. Really enjoy getting into this hive. The bees so far have done a really good job of propolizing the inner covers down. It makes it really hard to get in sometimes. I have noticed with this hive at the end of this video that there was a little bit of rainwater that had gotten into the right side of this hive, and I ended up putting a level on this hive, and it was kind of out of level. I'm shooting a little extra video here of me breaking down a vertical box, and I just wanted to ask everybody, you see those cones that I'm pulling out there? There's not much on the top of this vertical hive. It's because there's a little honey in each one of those. But I've decided to, even though that has some honey in it, that to break this hive down to one vertical hive. To break this hive down to one deep box. Here you can see me taking out the extra frames in this horizontal hive. And they're not. It's not really needed to be in there. There's no reason for them to have to keep that space cleared up. As I went into these frames here, I noticed a little bit of hive beetles. So this extra space is not needed, and it'll give them more chance to run those hive beetles out. Speaking of that vertical hive below, tell me what you guys do with your vertical hives. Would you have taken those frames out? So that frame right there had a little bit of cone on it. I decided to keep it in there because they were working on it, building on it. And now I've decided to slide each frame over to the left side of this hive. It gets more sunlight on this corner versus the right side, because you can see that that bush there blocks a lot of the late evening sunlight. So with winter coming, they're going to get more sunlight on that left side. You can see the hive's really strung by the bees moving on those inner covers right there. It's a very beautiful hive. I'm so lucky to have caught this swarm, and I'll probably make splits from this hive in the spring. And that cone right there is full of honey. Man, it was just loaded down. So we're just breaking another frame open right here, and we're going to take another look here. These bees should have plenty of time to reseal everything back down and get things where they want it at. You can see right there on the right side was full of brood. The back corner on that was full of honey. And again, I noticed this hive was not level, so I ended up leveling it to fix it. And we moved ahead here just a little bit and got really into the brood nest. And this queen's doing great. I'm really looking forward to this hive in the spring. I may make 3 splits on this hive if it does really well through spring. I really like the genetics. It looks like these are crinoleons, but they're either very calm. You see, they're not really getting up in my face. I haven't had to smoke them since I first got into it. So again, just an all-around beautiful hive. In the comments below, also, if you don't mind, just if you have a horizontal hive, tell me how your horizontal hive's doing. I love listening to what other people say about their hives and how their hives are doing. So I'm not the best beekeeper. I watch a lot of YouTube videos. I listen to a lot of you guys that's on YouTube just to learn something that maybe I don't know. Now I've pretty much gone through the brood nest. I'm coming out the other side, and there you can see again some honey on the right side of this hive. Not quite as much honey. So it was kind of interesting that the bees had decided that they were putting more honey to the left side. It had looked like they had used most of this on the right side. Those 2 weeks of cold weather had really done some of my hives in. As you can see that cone right there, completely empty. The fall flow was not good for me in my area of Creston, North Carolina. Don't know what happened, but it just is not as good. So here I'm taking a divider board, and I'm not going to let these guys have any of the right side of this hive. You can put a blanket in that right side if you wanted to. They're pretty much going to seal that inner cover into place, and they're going to use the left side. Now you see that little shim I had in there. I was using that for robbing purposes. And you see me counting across here. This hive, I think it's got about 23 frames right now. And the right side of this hive, I'm just going to leave the excess frames in there and just allow that to be an empty space. So, a vertical hive, a lot of times you have to take those boxes and store those extra frames. I'm going to leave them right in this hive. I like to throw those bees off of the inner covers, that way I'm not crushing as many bees when I put these inner covers into place. Just throw your bees in the front of the hive there. But speaking of that shim right there, since I've shot this video, this hive and the hive beside of it has just been getting bombarded by being robbed.
If you guys have vertical hives, make sure that there's no empty space in the top of this box. I'm feeding this hive right now with a frame feeder, and this box will go down to a single. It was a swarm. I added brood to it. It ended up having a high mite count, so we're going to treat it also. But if it's not been fed enough, make sure you feed it and get it ready for winter, because this swarm was caught in like September. Real late swarm, and I'm trying to build it up.
Yeah, I do have a few vertical hives on my farm, and I usually use these for a lot of the swarms. They're really easy, to have on hand and get your swarm in there. You can see me taking off this top box. I don't want to use that box on this swarm. I want to go down to that one single deep box. And you see me pulling some leaves apart, and I use those for my strips. I just kind of go through that little hole and set that down inside the brood nest there. A couple strips for this hive. It's about 8 frames, maybe 7 frames, and just need a little extra help here. Taking those cones out that I mentioned earlier, I'll use those later in a swarm trap or for a hive that needs a little extra cone. And we're going to pull the frame feeder out right here and add it to this hive. I'd like to feed this hive at least a couple more times, and I feel like they'll be good. But again, I've got to be a little bit careful because of robbing. Adding a little sugar syrup to this hive right now. You'll see that right there on the right side. Really would like to get this hive up and going, ready for spring for next year. It is another pretty good swarm that I've caught. Not as good as that horizontal hive at the beginning of the video, but it's definitely a good possibility of splitting this hive in spring. And we're just wrapping everything up. We do appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much.